and welcome back to another edition of What's New with Doug. Today, I'll be showing you how to make some absolutely delicious brownies. 2 years ago, I actually took these to work for a Christmas party, and a lot of people doubted my cooking. Well, last Christmas party, those very same people that doubted me just 2 years ago were actually asking me to make these for last year's Christmas party. So it's kind of funny how the tides changed, but today's episode of What's New with Doug is brought to you by me, myself, and I. Okay, and before we get too far, let's grab a cold brewski. It's game day, and the Giants are currently winning right now, which is rare this season, so let's keep it up. Cheers. Now, before I start mixing all of the ingredients, I always like to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. That way, by the time you're done mixing all of your ingredients, the oven is already ready and preheated and there's no waiting.
Now, when mixing all the ingredients, I always like to add my dry ingredients before adding my wet ingredients. But that's just personal preference. You do you. So first up, we're going to take 3/8 teaspoon of baking powder. Put that in. Next up, we're going to take half a cup of cocoa. Then 3/4 cup flour. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now next up, when you add the sugar, you can add either a cup to a cup and a half. I've done both plenty of times. Now I will say though, if you add a cup of sugar versus a cup and a half, there's a noticeable difference of it not being sweeter. Most people like them with the full cup and a half, but there are a few far in between that like the cup. I personally go with the cup myself because I'm just sweet enough as it is. I'm just joking. So in this video, I'm going to do a cup and a half just because that's what the people like more, and that's actually what I like more too. Okay, now that we have the dry ingredients all taken care of, let's crack 3 eggs. Also, please do not judge my egg cracking skills. I know they're not the sharpest tool in the shed. Okay, after that, we want to grab 1 and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Okay. Score! Okay, and last but not least, we want to add 3/4 cup of vegetable oil. So throw all that in. Then, I always like to use a fork to mix it, so that's what we're going to do here in this. Now, you always want to start out slow because of all the dry ingredients. They will splash back up at you. I can tell you firsthand experience. And it's a little bit annoying trying to get out of your clothes. Once you start mixing in a few seconds, it becomes really easier, and that's when you can pick it up, kind of as if you were to do it in a professional mixer, not using your hand like I'm doing myself. Sorry for taking so long mixing it, but I got a little distracted listening to the Giants game in the background. Okay, that's all mixed. On to the next stage.
So everyone knows the Giants did actually just get their very first win this season too. So now the next part is entirely optional. I usually don't do this if I'm taking them to parties where there's a chance of someone being allergic to peanuts, but I always do these when I'm just making them for myself at home. It's just Reese's peanut butter chips. I always like to start out with half a bag, see how it goes. Side note, I've actually been to 2 Giants-Redskins games myself, so there's a little bit into the Giants-Redskins when they play each other. That was actually my very first NFL game I've ever been to, was Giants-Redskins back in the original Giants Stadium, although I have seen them both play in MetLife Stadium as well. Okay, so let's mix these bad boys up. Now, I just poured in half a bag just to see how it goes. From the looks of it, that's probably all I'm going to wind up sticking with. I'm not trying to OD on the peanut butter chips just because I'm not a huge peanut butter fan. I can only take it in limits, so. But that's just personal preference. You do you. Okay. Now that we have all the mix, you want to pour it into a brownie tray. Sorry about the bad angle, I just have to get a better view on scooping the batter out. Okay, now that all the batter is poured out, it's time to throw it into the oven. Stay with me! Now when you put them in the oven, you want to put them in the oven for roughly 25 to 30 minutes or so. I always put them in for 27 minutes, and then after 27 minutes, I'll actually do a toothpick check. I'll show you what that means after 27 minutes, so stay with me. Okay, now that 27 minutes is up, it's time to do the toothpick check thing that I was telling you about before we hit the break. Do the most obvious thing, get a toothpick. Pull the tray out with the brownies. Simply stick the toothpick into the middle of the tray. You want it to be pretty clean, like I have here. That to me is good, but I also prefer my brownies to be on the more moist side. So that just comes down to personal preference if you like yours more moist or if you prefer it to be on the more dry side. I'm more of a moist guy though, so I'm gonna pull these bad boys out. Okay, now that they're out of the oven, they're obviously hot. I don't know about you, but I personally don't like burning my hands. So I'm gonna let them cool down for about 15 minutes or so, and in the meantime, I'm gonna go watch football. Now that the brownies have finally cooled down, it's time for my favorite part of every video, eat. But before we get too far, I'm gonna show you, this is what the chocolate chip morsels will look like when you add them into the brownies. Really good. Definitely on the moist side. I prefer them to be a little bit more moist than dry, but that's just personal preference. You do you. Really good. Next week on What's New with Doug, I'll be making orange hummus. Yes, orange hummus. I know some of you are probably turning your heads of, that's not possible. But don't be a Karen. It is possible. See you then! Now that all of the ingredients are mixed in, The next part is entirely optional. I usually don't do it unless... Fuck! Now that everything's all mixed into the... Now the next part is entirely optional. I usually don't do it if I'm taking it to a party where there's people that... Now when we put them in the oven, you want to put them in the oven for roughly 20 to 30 minutes or so. I always like to have them at 27, and then after 27 minutes I'll take them out. Welcome back, everyone. It's time to